Hey, Scott, I have an interview coming up for a content strategy job, UX writing job. I'm kind of new to this stuff, and I don't want to sound like a ding dong during the interview. I want to make sure that I sound like I know what I'm talking about. And that is a super reasonable question. Interviews are nerve wracking no matter what, even if it's for something you've been doing for years, and especially if you are feel like you are transitioning into a new career, or maybe just wrangling with terminology that is understandably very confusing. There's a lot of words in the UX content space that overlap, that sound like each other. Not to mention that at any given company, content design, content strategy, UX writing, content governance, all of these things might mean different things at that company than maybe the way that I talk about them, maybe the way that they were at the last place you interviewed with, or certainly the last place that you worked. So let's break this down a little bit. I think a place that the question comes from, as I mentioned, is nerves. And that's totally reasonable. I think a really good way to kind of bust your nerves in talking about it is to get some practice talking to and with people about what you're interested in. If it's content strategy, there are Slack communities. I'll put some links in the description that you can join when live events resume. Hopefully, there'll be meetup groups. Just joining some online free events to just hear more people talking about content strategy, watching videos from conferences or meetup recordings. These things help you hear how other people use these terms in conversation. And that ends up being really important because can often be a little different than how people talk about things in books. Often, as someone who's written a book, I can tell you the way that I talk about this stuff has evolved since I wrote the book. And it's really helpful to just hear in a casual conversational way other people talking about this stuff. So panels, Q&As, anything like that that you can get access to can be really helpful. Certainly talking to other humans in chat and conversation could be good. And if it helps you to just write to me and say, I'm really nervous about my interview coming up, I can say, great, good job, I'm excited for you, offer you encouragement. Sometimes just giving voice to that concern can be really helpful. So let's get to the meat of the question, though, which is I think that people are worried, understandably, that they've got it wrong somehow, that the way that they talk about content strategy or UX writing isn't the right way, or that they're going to screw something up. I have worried about that. I worry about that sometimes. I worry about it a lot less now. I wrote a post for the Brain Traffic blog a while back when I worked there about using the words that work. And as a content strategist, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. The way that one organization talks about a page table might be the way that another organization talks about a content template. The way that one group talks about a content type might be a way that another person talks about components in a design system. A lot of these terms don't have consistent usage, and that's okay. A big part of being a content strategist is helping people align and get clarity on the stuff that they're working on when it comes to content. So part of your job anyway is going to be figuring out what all this stuff means. So when you go into the interview, your job in the interview is not to have the content strategy or UX writing glossary memorized, but rather to demonstrate that you can use those skills of listening to people, being curious, digging into the problem, asking for clarification. Any of the stuff you might do on the job, you can demonstrate as part of the interview. There's no checklist. There's no 3 strikes thing where if you use the wrong word, you're going to confuse people. If you're using what feels like jargon and terminology anyway, it's going to be good to define what you mean by that jargon just as a matter of practice. You're going to want to do that as a content strategist anyway. So you don't have to worry about coming in and being the expert on everything. You need to demonstrate that you can work with people and learn what they mean and find common ground and terminology that makes sense to everyone. Another place that I think another thing that's kind of packed into this question is maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome. People feel like, well, I've never done this work before. I've read the books, I've been to the meetups, maybe I took a course or two, but I haven't done the work, and so I want to know that the way that I understand content strategy is right. Did I get it right? I can tell you from almost 5 years consulting with in house content teams across every industry, every size, then going to conferences, talking to people from all kinds of organizations, everyone does it differently. Everyone does it differently. The thing to be curious about in your interview is how they do it, how they would like to do it, where the points of friction are, what the problems are that the organization has, what led them to create this job listing in the first place. When I'm doing interviews, when I've been on the job hunt, I like to talk a lot about the team structure. Whom am I going to be reporting to? Whom does that person report to? Is content strategy its own discipline? Are we interested in making it a discipline or community of practice within the organization? How have writers collaborated with designers in the past? Anything that can get you started on your journey of thinking about and understanding how that organization works. That's going to show that you are curious about that, and it's also going to give you some insights onto whether you like their answers. If people are very dismissive about content, if they keep talking about your job as copy and copywriting even though it's listing for a content strategist, that's going to tell you some stuff too. So just know that there's no one right universal answer for how content strategy is practiced. A job interview is not a quiz. The people interviewing you are nervous as well. It's probably, especially if they're team members. Remember, their job is doing design or research or whatever it might be. Their job is not interviewing candidates full time, so they're going to be a little nervous too. So just know that job interviews are hard as hell. It's okay to be nervous. There's not some magic list that you haven't completed before the interview. You're going to be fine. I believe in you. Keep at it and know that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There's always more jobs out there. So best of luck to you and hope that helps.